Hi, everybody. Uh, just want to thank you all for joining us tonight. We are here to talk about the plans for Lake and Osceola APA to resume play. I know that not everybody's watching right now, but this video will be available on our Facebook page, so please feel free to share it with your teammates and other APA friends. We want to start by thanking everybody who took the time to fill out our survey. It helped a lot to hear your perspectives when we're trying to make some of these decisions. We wanted to share some of the feedback that we've gotten from the surveys. So a resounding number of you guys do want to get back to playing right away. A large portion of you guys are ready to come back as long as there's safety measures and precautions in place. And a smaller group are not exactly wanting to come back yet. Each one of you guys has a good personal reason as to why you're just not comfortable yet. So we do want play to begin as soon as possible, believe me. But we want to resume to the fun, light-spirited atmosphere that we have grown to learn APA League nights are. To do that, we have to make sure that we're starting at a proper time. We don't want anyone to feel upset about sanitizing or feel unsafe in any way. And for this to happen, we might have to wait a couple extra weeks just to make sure that everybody's ready. With that said, we will not be rushing into the bars as soon as they open. Our plan is to look at the county COVID numbers after May 25th to see if we should resume play in June. Host locations might be allowed to open up before June, and that's okay. In fact, it might actually be good because it will allow us to focus on some makeup matches that were from the pre-shutdown time frame, and it kind of gives everybody a little bit of time to get out there and practice a little bit. So teams who have makeup matches, please be ready for the phone call from us. When bars do open up, we will be calling you guys, but we're not going to actually schedule league play for a few more weeks here. Right now, I think the only host location that we do have open is Mad Hippo in Kissimmee, and I believe they opened up yesterday or the day before. We will go ahead and start, just reaching out to teams to see if they want to start getting some makeup matches done. Obviously, it's limited crowd number sizes. Only 2 players or 3 players need to be there. And it gets something off of the checklist that we need to get done so that we can get through the rest of the session. So we've been asked a lot about sanitizing host locations. And I can say that each location will be taking steps to make the pool tables safe for league nights. As always, we want to make sure that everybody has up-to-date and correct information. So we looked up some facts on the CDC website and just want to share those so that we're all on the same page. So on May 4th, Florida began phase 1 of reopening. That included opening restaurants at a 25% capacity, hospitals could resume elective surgeries, and some of the state parks and beaches were allowed to open. Anybody that did open had the social distancing guidelines that they had to follow. Bars and pool halls were not included in phase 1, and they are currently all still closed. The COVID-19 virus takes on average 5 to 6 days to show symptoms, but it can take as long as 14 days. It's the incubation period. It's very long. It's what's made this kind of scary. People might have it and not realize that they have it. As of right now, the CDC recommends wearing a cloth face covering in a public setting where other social distancing measures might be difficult. Examples are grocery stores and pharmacies, but I do see that extending to bars and restaurants as they open up. The best way to protect yourself in public is by frequently cleaning your hands. By doing that, you can eliminate the virus that might be on your hands and avoid infection that could occur for then touching your eyes, mouth, or your nose. The virus spreads between people who are in close contact through respiratory droplets and through contaminated surfaces. It has shown that disinfectants, when used properly, are effective in killing the virus on surfaces. So with that information, I do see locations and players being able to wash their hands, wipe down surfaces, avoid touching faces, do things like that to help us that we can get to a point where we can play and be safe while we're in this transition period. We posted in a few groups. There was a article from Pool Dogs about 10 ways to safely play pool. And it suggests a few things, things like maybe getting your own piece of chalk and only using your chalk and not switching a piece of chalk back and forth, using your own bridge. You would go and get one through a pool vendor or through Amazon. I know Eastern Billiards has some. I'm sure be happy to get one for you. Also, wiping down the pool table rails. They tend to be the most touched items of the pool table, so just wipe those down in between matches just to kind of avoid any additional transmission of contamination if somebody is sick. Being mindful of these social distancing and personal hygiene will be considered good sportsmanship, and it shows respect for the other APA players around you. So just be mindful of that. Right now, I think everybody is gotten the gist of all the social distancing rules and guidelines, so we won't really go too much more into that. We are getting a lot of questions on tournaments, how the session's going to end, how the play is going to go for next session, and this is what we know as of today. The APA headquarters has rescheduled the Showdown Series events that were scheduled to take place in April, May to this coming August. They've also rescheduled the World Pool Championship, that's the big event with all the teams, from August to, it's a Saturday, November 28th through Sunday, December 6th. Anybody who was qualified for the regional singles event in October has been moved to the March regional event. So that window will close in November. Singles boards and all that can continue running. We're just kind of consolidating everybody into one big regional event. Locally, we are going to restart our spring session exactly where we left off. So if you were in week 11 of 16, like a majority of you guys were, then you will resume play in week 11 of 16. There's no makeup matches. Any play that you missed because of the shutdown has simply been pushed out to later dates. Obviously, this is cutting into summer session. It may even cut it out completely, which will affect the qualifiers for next year. It's going to be a little bit of a trickle for this year and next year as losing these couple months that we've lost. Obviously, we'll deal with next year as we get there, but just as we have a lot of people asking about makeup matches for time that they haven't been able to play. All of that has simply been pushed out. So just know that. Our local qualifier events have also been pushed out with tentative dates in July and August. I think that there's a few kind of diagrams that you can see. This one is the one for the Vegas events. It shows you kind of the breakdown of when's going to happen where. These are all available on our website, so feel free to go and check that out. We've also created something similar for our local qualifiers. So you can see our Ladies League LTC, our Masters LTC, 8-ball and 9-ball, all of that originally was going to happen in August is now happening in December. So we kind of put all of those in one flyer for you. The other one is for the Jack and Jill and the team captains. These are both qualifying tournaments. It's a one-day tournament. You win the tournament, you go to Vegas. You're playing for a trip to Vegas in August now. So just so that's clear. On the survey, we asked you guys to let us know if you had anything additional that you wanted us to consider while we were making some decisions. So a couple of those I thought were actually some pretty good examples of things that we've gotten, I would say, just more questions on than others. So I just wanted to read them out and actually answer them for you. So one question is, COVID is supposed to get really bad again by fall. Are we required to wear masks or anything while shooting? So this is a sticky topic, and we're not experts in infectious disease. What we know is what you guys know. The CDC is recommending a cloth covering. Kevin and I will continue to follow the requirements set in place by the health department, and we're asking everyone to wash your hands before and after you play your match. If you are wanting to sanitize any equipment, please bring whatever sanitation wipes or sprays that you would want so you can sanitize. I've actually cleared with the host locations that you guys are totally fine with bringing in your own sanitizing wipes and things like that. They've asked that you not use bleach, so please do not bring bleach in. Try not to bring in guests with you if you're already in a crowded location. If you tend to bring your girlfriend or your boyfriend, if there's any way for the first week or two they can sit it out just to limit the number of bodies in the room, just be a little bit more thoughtful of the other people in there that do have to be there for pool league. Communicate with your opponent on your safe distance. If you're somebody that's a little bit more sensitive, let your opponent know so that they can act accordingly. If you're not, if you're more lenient, you're not too worried about it, also that's okay to communicate so your opponent kind of knows what to expect. You guys can do things instead of handing, the cue ball, if you have ball in hand, instead of handing it from one another, maybe set it down on the table and let them pick it up. You don't need to shake hands or anything like that before or after a match. That's been extended from before. And please, please, please stay home if you are not feeling well. And I'm going to add this: if you're in a profession where you're around people who are sick, please wait to come to Pool League until you're no longer, around people that are sick. Again, the incubation period, we don't really know if you're infected right away, so just be mindful of that. To answer the main question, required is a very strong word. We are not going to require you to wear a face mask, but I can say I will be wearing a face mask, and Kevin will also. So there's that. Next question was, I do not know if it's possible to do only one match a day at the bowling alley and have shifts since they can use 2 tables. What I think this was trying to get to is basically, is there any way we can split up the division nights and maybe play different nights of the week to spread out? Claremont Bowling Alley is a very close area. Claremont, iPinball, Frank's Monday night, Frank's Thursday night, Fat Cats Wednesday night, Mad Hippo. All of those are going to be looking at some alterations to their schedule. We're working with the host locations to secure additional nights of play. From the survey, a lot of you guys were more willing to change a night of play than you were wanting to change a host location of where you played at. Obviously, for the host locations that have supported us all the way through, we want to make sure that we're keeping all of the play out of their location if possible. If it is not possible, we might ask an additional location to step in as long as they're able to help us in a safe way. Everything is on the table right now. If you have an idea of something that we can do, please let us know. We're all ears. Everything that we do is obviously going to be temporary, and it's really just going to be to meet the safe distancing for the crowd sizes of our divisions. So, next question. When we resume play, we should have Clorox wipes to wipe down the balls occasionally. I agree. Feel free to bring your Clorox wipes or whatever it is that you would like to bring. Most host locations will have some disinfectant equipment, but they might not have it for everybody, so please bring your own. We're also going to work with some division reps on locations that might not have as many people on staff to sanitize, so that the division reps can go through and maybe wipe things down before league play. But the best way to make sure that everything is clean and safe is if you wipe it down yourself. We've gotten permission to do that, so feel free to. One person brought up a latex allergy. So if you're mandated to wear gloves, or if anybody is wearing latex gloves around you, please just let them know about your allergy. We're not going to require you to wear gloves or face masks or anything like that. If you have an allergy to anything, please let your opponent know, especially if they're wearing latex gloves, so that they can avoid touching you. Another question we got, when a non-smoking night, will we be asked to go to a smoking location? No. Any non-smoking division, if we do have an alternate schedule in mind for you guys, we're going to keep it non-smoking. There is one division that is a smoking division that we might ask you guys to have 2 teams go to a non-smoking location where there's only one pool table there, but the smoking area is a couple steps away from the table. It's not that far. And again, it would be a temporary solution. But for any non-smoking divisions, any alternate schedule theories or concepts that we have for you are going to be non-smoking. So don't worry about that. One good question that we got was, who determines what safely open means? So besides the local health officials, I would say that you are really the one that's going to decide that for yourself. We will follow the local guidelines and make sure each division can play safely with all the social distancing recommendations. But at the end of the day, if you do not feel safe, then please stay home. All we ask is that you communicate with your team captain so that we can plan out a schedule for you. So that covers that. The next part, and this is really just something I would prefer to read out because we're going to release all this in writing, but sometimes it's easier just for me to read it. So Adjustments to rules. So these are the local rule adjustments that we've decided on so far. So your player eligibility will remain the same, assuming that your division completes the spring session in full. Players will need 5 matches on the roster for them to be eligible for playoffs or triannuals, and players will need 10 lifetime matches in that format by the end of spring session to play in the World Qualifier. Again, this is assuming that your division completes the spring session in full. Roster adjustments. These will be considered at this time for all teams. If a player cannot return, we will allow you to replace them. Please make any roster changes before we return to play, or be ready to write that player in the first week back. We don't want this to be a free-for-all where you can just add anybody you want for the rest of the session. We have 6 weeks left of play. They need 5 matches on your roster to be eligible for playoffs or anything like that. We want you to make any changes as soon as possible. In the first 2 weeks, pretty much a free-for-all, and then after that, whoever's on the team at that point really just needs to be playing. Qualified teams, your roster adjustments will need to be approved by St. Louis on a case-by-case basis. To be considered for that, your players must have at least 20 lifetime matches in the last 2 years and be equal or lesser skill level than the player they are replacing. If you're a non-qualified team, your adjustments need to be approved locally through the league office. We ask that you consider match requirements and membership dues before you add that new player, but you do have a little bit more flexibility. We already talked about this a little. Some divisions are more crowded than others. You know who you are. If social distancing regulations cannot be followed, we are looking at splitting the schedule between different nights of play and different locations. We'll be reaching out to you guys individually and talking more about that. The replay rule. So the replay rule will remain in effect with temporary flexibility. If you do not have 5 players available, you may use the replay rule. The guidelines for the new replay rule will be given to you in writing before we resume league play. We're still kind of playing around with how we want to make sure that we maintain the flexibility for the teams that have, gotten themselves into a situation where they aren't going to have as many players coming back. But we want to maintain the structure of the league and the integrity of the division. So you'll be getting all that in writing here soon. If your team wins a trip to Vegas and you are not able or willing to go due to the change of dates or to travel in general, please call the league office. If you are a player who wins a trip through one of our upcoming team captain qualifiers or a Jack and Jill, you are expected to play in the August Las Vegas Championship. What I mean by that is the qualifiers coming up, you still have the option to play or not play. And if you do play in that and you do win, you know going into it that you will be expected to play in the Las Vegas Championship. If you're not safe or not sure if you're going to be able to go to Las Vegas in August, my biggest recommendation is don't play in the qualifying tournament this year. There will be other years. APA will be selling face masks for players who would like one. Requirements and mandates for wearing the masks are not going to be made by the local league. They'll be made by your health officials and host locations. But we are going to be selling the masks for players who would like one. Right now we're doing a deal for $8, kind of a group buy. If you place your order in the next couple days, just let us know, contact us, and we'll make sure that you get the instructions on how to do that. After that, I believe they'll go up to $10. So this is a kind of a big one that we've had to think through. If a team would like to pre-coordinate a match, they may do so. What we mean is if you want to get on the phone with the captain of another team and preset exactly which player is going to play which player first, who's going to play who second, who's going to play who third, and so on, you can. We're not going to recommend this. However, we've been asked about it and we have no objection. If you do choose to do this, both teams must agree. So if one team doesn't want to do it, off the table. We also ask that you make sure that you are 100% positive that your players will be there at the time. If you're going to do this in like a schedule where you tell them when to be there, make sure that your players are reliable. If you have any roster adjustments, let your opposing team know before you start throwing players. The home team will automatically throw the first player. So that means that if you're home team, you're going to throw the first. you're going to throw the third, and you're going to throw the fifth player. The visiting team will automatically put up the second and fourth player. Once the player's thrown, they should not be changed unless the team is in jeopardy of breaking the 23 rule. The reason that we're not going to recommend this is if a player is pre-thrown and doesn't show up in time of play, the match could result in a forfeit. We are going to kind of follow the guideline of that rule. However, if the captains agree to make a change, they may do so. If you guys want to do anything on your own and everybody's in agreement, go for it. If you call the league office and ask us what the ruling is, we're going to say the player cannot be changed and the match would have to go in as a forfeit. We do not want forfeits. We want that to be a last resort. So, if maybe two other players are there that could play a match that we're kind of preset to play each other can play, or maybe let the player that's there choose who their opponent's going to be. There's a lot of workarounds for that. If you do agree to preset your matches, just be aware everybody needs to be there when they say they're going to be there. And if we get a phone call about a player not being there, the official ruling is that it's a forfeit. Playoffs will no longer be played in a full week. So this is just a small adjustment that we're making to try and kind of earn back a little bit of the weekly play so we're not too far behind. We're going to basically, any teams that get into a playoff match, we'll print up the score sheets, we're going to give it to you, and we're going to give you guys a deadline. We will coordinate with the host location maybe a weekend that everybody can go in and play playoffs at the same time. But as soon as our spring session ends, we're going to jump straight into probably fall. Most likely we're going to have to cut out summer session and we'll just go into a long fall session. So just be aware of that. Alternate divisions, you guys all have some extra things going on, so we'll probably just address those in writing with a blast that will go out to you guys. Again, we do have some tentative dates set up for our playoff week, triennial week, best of the rest, and world qualifier. All those are contingent on you guys being able to get started playing right away. I don't see many questions on the stream here, which I will think is a good thing. Hopefully I covered a majority of the questions. We are still taking in surveys, so please feel free to fill that out. Again, as far as time frame goes, on March 25th, we will be looking at the numbers in Florida to see where we are and making a decision there. Hopefully we'll be ready to start play as soon as June 1st. So I guess just be ready. If you guys do have questions or concerns, feel free to call us. If you have a player you know is not coming back and you want to make a roster adjustment, please let us know sooner than later so we can go ahead and get that updated in the system. And if you're a player who's on the fence and you're not sure, don't feel pressured to make a decision right now. There's obviously a lot of things that might change here in the next couple weeks. So we want to know as soon as possible, but we also want you to take your time. So Kevin, did you have anything you wanted to add in?
You did good.
All right. Well, y'all have a great night and a good weekend, and we will be updating you guys via email and posting all this in writing on our website.